Hi everyone, I hope you're all having an amazing day so far. First off, I would like to thank District Governor Tony P. and the committee for giving me the opportunity to speak with you. I do hope I'm able to contribute to making this DISCON meaningful. I've read somewhere that to build trust, it's important to tell people about yourself at the get-go. My name is Claire. I work in a tech company. My background is in governance and development. And the truth is, I am hardly somebody you could imagine working in a social media company. I only have 3 social media accounts in a plethora of platforms across the internet. Some people have 9, others have 15. And I never imagined that I would be in the tech industry, but I found myself drawn to it. And that's why I'm here. And I'm here with you. I left the country to study sometime after the 2016 elections. Being away gave me the time to breathe and the distance to see things differently. From outside looking in, I saw how technology gained considerable influence in the Philippines. Filipinos are the heaviest users of social media in the world. Currently, we average 4 hours and 15 minutes a day, a big difference from the global average of 2 hours and 25 minutes. We're also heavy internet users, spending 10 hours and 56 minutes online per day, which is a big variance from the global average of 6 hours and 54 minutes. We are also a mobile-first country, which means we access the digital world through our phones. For many of us, our phones are the first thing we check in the morning and the last thing we look at night. I have been in this industry for almost 3 years, and I've seen that it's not exactly a completely different world. It is just another world. In the same vein, when we think about ourselves, there isn't just one version of me, but multiple versions deployed differently when the situation calls for it. We play different roles. And the digital world is just another place where we would need to play a role. The challenge today about going into the world of digital isn't about whether you will or you won't. You have to. But if you don't want to, that's okay. But you're going to miss out. It isn't a matter of missing out on what's going on, but more of missing out on shaping the present and the future. And if the future is the kind of business that you're involved in, and we know you are, then I really don't think the question of joining is a question anymore. The challenge that we have now is about what role would you play? How would you participate? The challenge, as it was in the analog world then, is the same now. What kind of world are we creating? And in today's language, apart from what we create, how do we show up? I have learned that there are people here who would like to know more about going digital. And there are those who know a lot, and there are some who know a bit. But isn't it amazing that right now, we're enjoying a virtual conference? Who would have thought it would come to this point? The digital world is only as what you can imagine it, what you can create of it. But creation is a huge responsibility that so many people take for granted. Creation as a skill, as a talent, as an opportunity. Because it's so easy now to create a story, a video, any piece of content. My nephew uses a video editing software that when I was in college, we had to pay a professional to do. He does it on his own now. It is amazing, but also at the same time, concerning. Today, technology provides that one thing that previous generations lacked, and that is speed. Speed in the way values are imparted to the content we consume, the speed in which decisions are made, and how decisions are encouraged, the speed in how we react and share information, the speed in how all of a sudden life changed. Tech is about information, connections, distribution, access. It has democratized so many spaces and yet caused so many fractures. We now have a world, as author Margaret Leafley described, of increased fragmentation, where people retreat into positions and identities, where we have different interpretations of what's going on despite looking at the same information. It is a world where change is just the way it is. This dramatic and turbulent times makes a mockery of plans and predictions. It keeps us on edge, anxious and sleepless. Nothing makes sense anymore. Meaning eludes us. We have an understanding that life is full of transitions, change, and uncertainty. Regardless, we always grapple with it and hope that with whatever ounce of good is left in the world, we hope that our happier days would remain permanent, not fleeting. But nothing ever lasts. And for those who are more senior than me, you know this better than I do. Nonetheless, it helps to understand. We have difficulty with change not because we are afraid of it. And this I learned in grad school. People are not afraid of change. People are afraid of loss. Whatever form loss takes when change happens. COVID has brought us never-ending transitions. We know the reality of change as it is starker and more frequent today. It has become so life-changing that every day you literally worry about surviving tomorrow. It has also, for the most part, helped us somewhat become comfortable with uncertainty. And this, in a way, is what we can bring with us today. The comfort in discomfort, the certainty in uncertainty, and with that readiness for change, there would be willingness to adapt. So I invite you to show up. Show up in the digital world. It is overwhelming, it is fragmented, it is so many things. But that is where we begin. I understand that the Rotary has a 4-way test, and it can easily be applied in the digital space. It stood the test of time since the 1940s. It is universal, and it could just as well be digital. And I would try to attempt employing the 4-way test onto what I see are the areas where you could show up. But please forgive me if I don't use it well. So the first question, is it the truth? Going online has become a never-ending battle between what is true and what is not. Fake news has not just become a buzzword, but is now part of our everyday language. Fact-checking has been a thing, and now personal experience has also become the standard for truth for many. One of the more revealing insights I got from an academic friend, Dr. Jason Cabañas, highlighted that central to the persuasive power of digital disinformation is that they engage with powerful social narratives that people hold on to. And so, while we have institutions that help frame and make sense of the world, it cannot be avoided that there are groups of people whose understanding and perspectives differ, even if it's about the same world. And that is important to understand. Digital media has allowed all of these voices to surface, and it has become destructive to a certain extent because these narratives and stories deeply relate to various beliefs. All the more, this makes digital media an important space. And as Dr. Cabañas says, digital media users actually play a crucial role in crafting, entrenching, and challenging the social views that circulate across the media. Given that reality and a more holistic approach, how then would we respond to this first part of the 4-way test? Is it the truth? How would we, as advocates, work with this reality? Question number 2, is it fair to all concerned? One of the starkest and saddest experiences for me was to see how digital media is being used to oversimplify issues and to reduce people to one event, one mistake, one failure. And we are normalizing that as if it's okay. When we think about it, who here would want to be defined and remembered by a failure and then never be allowed to share their story of recovery? It isn't fair to people the way issues are oversimplified. We have seen online campaigns saying that the poor are in poverty because they are lazy. When we know there is a tier of privilege that cut across society. I have seen how people are reduced to mere mistakes, judged online and every day and for eternity. Their voices silenced and their lives reduced to mediocrity. this landscape begs the question, who and what are we for? There's a whole generation of people that can benefit from online responsibility, compassion, and empathy. Question number 3. Will it build goodwill and better friendships? The 2016 elections have proven to be such a divisive moment in history. We saw it in the Philippines, we saw it in the US, and much of it was blamed on social media. But that event should also teach us to reflect. Which parts of ourselves allowed it to happen? Digital and social media allow us to have bubbles, and it has unfortunately reduced our patience, our ability to listen openly, and it has become an easy trap to be self-righteous. Technology today has made it so easy for us to view the world as if it is simply contained in right versus wrong, evil versus good, where in fact, we live in a world where there's so much more gray. And the first thing we need to do is to overcome our tendency to go all good or all bad as if we were in Star Wars, enough to risk our relationships and communities in the process. Question number 4. Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Going digital was promising and full of potential. No one expected that things would turn the way they did globally. What developed in recent years, the way people consume content, the way technology is changing behavior, and the way it has been changing cultures and people have left us overwhelmed and unprepared. In my work, we recognize that many of the challenges we face are challenges that the world is experiencing only now, and there is no precedent for many of the issues we encounter. And though there is an expectation that we should know the solutions, it doesn't come so easily all the time. But the company that started more than a decade ago has evolved. It has become more responsible and accountable, though it is still catching up with the rapid pace of wicked problems that abound. But that is just one actor. There are many of us actors, participants globally. The test, our test, is how to make digital more open, accountable, and responsible so that it truly benefits all concerned. Of course, we know that there's also so much good, so many better stories. MSMEs have greatly benefited from online selling, opening a whole new world of customers, especially during the pandemic. It's now easier to learn, to gather more information, and even to attend an Ivy League school remotely. OFW families have remained closer together because of technology. It has become cheaper and mostly accessible to all. We now see groups of people helping farmers directly reach customers, cutting out the middleman. And there is a whole lot more. Philanthropy, kindness, generosity, bayanihan are more pronounced online. You have strangers helping strangers, families helping other families, communities helping each other. But our work, as people who have access to resources, who have the opportunity to do more, the 4-way test already presents areas where we could pitch in. And the work that lies ahead requires us to work through and within our collective differences. The work will require challenging and changing people's usual realities, and that is not easy. 2 of my favorite courses in Harvard were around adaptive leadership. As a student of it, I'd like to share it with you. Leadership, based on this framework, is an activity. It is not a set of personal characteristics, but the act of mobilizing a group of individuals to handle difficult challenges. The exercise of leadership, then, is about mobilizing people and resources to intimately contend with complex problems. By complex, we mean problems that cannot just be handled by an expert, but a problem that requires adaptive work. Adaptive work consists of the learning required to address conflicts in the values people hold or to diminish the gap between the values people stand for and the reality they face. At the end of the day, the exercise of leadership, of adaptive work, requires a change in values, beliefs, or behavior. It is not dependent on a person we formally call a leader, but of people who exercise and practice leadership. My favorite line comes from one of my favorite professors. He said, "We are as much a part of the problem as we are the solution." And the key part here is in knowing what is your piece of the problem. Much of the reality we would confront is the same reality we have created ourselves. And so the adaptive work starts with us, for ourselves and our own communities. And hopefully we expand. We begin with ourselves. How we conduct our online roles and personas, what we say and read, what we encourage, who we encourage, it requires affection. What presence do we inspire, and who do we aspire to be? Because there begins how we create the world. In a K-drama I watched years back, one of the characters said that he lives to be sincere. Because if he is sincere, everything around him will also begin to be sincere. So we will begin by showing up. Show up. Build a community. Share your advocacy. Bring the truth, the service online. Bring more good onto the platforms. There are a lot of resources that would show you how to do it. Learn the best practices for every platform. Bring value. Design a content strategy. But just know that all of these resources would show you how, but nothing can ever tell you your own why. Show up, because the digital world is another arena that will help shape the present and the future. It is an area large enough for many types of leadership and many kinds of advocacy, but it is also a space that is important enough for the practice of your leadership and the practice of your service. Not to be relevant, but to be true to mission. Just for the Philippines, there are about 70 million Facebook users. Millions are also on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram, with various market brackets and specific communities. In addition to a billboard, you'd have to reach all of them, and digital can help you there. Show up, because as much as we like to glorify the internet on some days and destroy it in others, we get as much out of technology, out of digital, to do what we bring into it. Garbage in, garbage out, brilliance in, brilliance out. So, my favorite definition of kindness is by a good friend who said that kindness is doing your very best at any given time. So if this is the time when the world is changing, when new history is being written, and the time when innovations are being made, what kind of world are we creating? We now have an opportunity to be anything, to do something. And there's this famous quote that says, "In a world where you can be anything, be kind." It's time for us to show up, and to show up in the best possible way that we could. Maraming salamat po.